Okay. Hello and welcome to this Heart as a Compass interview series. My name is Paige Lussier Johnson. And before I started this today, I was thinking back, I was like, how long have I been doing this? And I started doing this 14 years ago on a platform called Blog Talk Radio. So I have always been a connector. One of my talents and gifts is seeing the spark in other people and igniting it within them. And I spent my 20s in New York City as a professional-ish actress. And I was always marveling around the people that I met and in awe by the people I got to work with. And so I started a radio show called Actors Quest, where I was interviewing other performers who were like me, and that we were producing and we were directing and we were really creating art in the New York City art scene. And then I also, around that time, started my spiritual path, becoming a Reiki Master. And then I was like, I want to interview healers, right? I want to learn about your spiritual journey. So then it kind of became follow your heart. And I was doing that off and on for years. And 2 years ago, I kind of switched formats and was like, really want to start doing YouTube. And I tried Facebook Lives, and I've kind of been playing around in different ways for the last couple of years. But I just love connecting people. I love the fact that I love people, and I have so many wonderful people in my life, including our special guest today, Britney, who I've known for a couple of years now. And I want the world to know. I want the world to know about all of us, because I think we're wonderful, and we all have these beautiful stories, and we have these intimate conversations, which I think are just so beneficial. So that's why I'm kind of planting this seed. Right now, I'm kind of unofficially, with my guides, kind of downloading information about the next iteration of this Follow Your Heart, Heart as a Compass radio show that I've been doing for 14 years, and in 2024, yeah. And so my guides are giving me that collecting people, kind of creating a container for us to support each other, for us to know each other, because I've been on the spiritual path professionally, personally, years now, my whole life as just a seeker. And then, for quite a number of years, I've been creating content. I've been doing my own spiritual work, my shadow work, taking classes, teaching classes, being a spiritual teacher, being a mentor, being a life coach. And the one thing that I see often out there is, especially with new people that are just kind of awakening, coming out, is there's this kind of guru down philosophy, and also this competition between different healers and different modalities, where it's, you have certain psychic gifts, and if you don't have those, you need to have them and add these. And it keeps to be this pattern that I see is keeping a lot of really beautiful star seeds suppressed, because they're constantly trying to seek for more and more, and comparing themselves to other people. We are not all meant to awaken to the same gifts at the same time. We are meant to ebb and flow, to support one another. And one of the beautiful stories in meeting Britney is I was just kind of starting out teaching my chakra embodiment class. I met her through one of my teachers, who was a friend, one of her teacher. We kind of just clicked. And then we started working together on a one-on-one basis. And since then, we've not only been co-collaborators, healing each other when we need it, but also creating content together. We've done online quantum healing events. And when I was talking to my guides about what this is, every month had a theme. And the theme for this month popped in as intention, which, of course, that makes sense for New Year's. But when I asked Britney, she said, Oh, that's funny. I've been downloading information about this and I had no idea why. And so it just goes to show you that our guides are in supporting, and they're wanting us to collaborate and connect. So if you're watching this or if you're finding it on the replay, then welcome. You're part of our tribe. You're part of our community. And my big intention for this is calling in a tribe. You know, I've always felt a bit homesick. Britney, I consider one of my best friends, and she's miles and states away from me. But we get to connect, and we have these online connections, and we have the phone, and we live in a society where we can be close friends and yet not live down the street from each other. And so my intention is to create a collective of awakening souls, of spiritual teachers, of, you know, those kind of emerging teachers that are that are kind of just below the surface, that are trying to get our gifts out there. And we're not as competitive. It seems like right now a lot of the gung-ho spiritual coaches out there are possessive of the scene in some way, right? And what I'm trying to create is that you are your own guru, and that together we come together as a collective, and we're stronger together. So part of this series is going to be interviewing like-minded souls. I have the whole month, the whole 2024 all planned and organized. My guides helped me pick my friends to who would be best for each interview based on the theme that they gave me. And then I'm also going to do my full moon channeled meditations that I do, as well as around the new moon, a circle where we can come together and brainstorm our ideas and support each other as we are emerging and growing, because we have to support each other because we're supporting the collective. So it's really important that I think that we stick together, because we're doing so much of this light work and this transmutation for the collective, that we're better together. So that being said, let me introduce my lovely friend, Britney, who I am just so thrilled to be here. Britney, why don't you introduce yourself? I'm kind of shying away from saying your name because I realized I don't want to say it wrong. So if you notice that, I'm saying it in my mind every time, and then I really want her to say it, because if I say it wrong, it's going to be embarrassing. So I'm just throwing it out there. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so that's totally understandable, as my name's Britney Iannantuono, and it's Italian. But anyway, I have known Paige for some time, and we interact in a really unique way, which is my favorite thing about interacting with her. And I think this interview is going to be really fun as we get into the details. So a little bit about me. I am a nurse practitioner. I was a nurse for a total of, well, altogether in the field of nursing for 20 years. So really starting from really just getting into that field, knowing medicine, Western medicine. I kind of grew up in that field, and it was very challenging. So then I discovered Reiki. That was about 15 years ago. That was life-changing. I started to figure out life didn't have to be so negative. I didn't have to have so many anger issues. Really started to delve into, you know, everybody was having depression, anxiety, and really looking into that. So Reiki really gave me a different perspective on life. So it taught me to be in the present moment. So not only to look at my body, look at my own energy, and to realign it on my own, I could help others do the same, as I was really delving into these deep traumas, these deep issues that were stored in the body for probably our entire lives. So as I started to continue doing that, eventually I created Reiki Health and Wellness with a couple friends. We started doing Reiki on the public, and that was just also life-changing. So much growth, building a business, which is not easy, as Paige knows. So sounds like it's going to be easy. You can have a vision, but you can also get stuck in where's the action that we have to put behind that vision. And as that's going on, you're still healing your own traumas, your own life. You're still trying to be a mom, trying to live or work your regular job, but also build a business that you don't realize you have to go through the process as well, just like you're going to help your clients do the same. So not any healer, not any coach, not anybody that does this type of work hasn't already been through their own significant awakening, significant healing process, and they continue to do the same so that we can help others to learn and grow through that process as well. So along the lines, I got certified in breath work. I got certified in family constellation. These are all things that have been really beneficial in my healing process. I also use a device called Healy, which does frequency medicine. And what else do I do? I'm currently still a nurse practitioner and I love Western medicine, but I'm trying to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western medicine. So I created Energetic Restoration as now my company. And my goal with that is to help people restore release all the blocks that are holding them back, redesign a life of purpose, and by restoring balance. So I don't know if that just made sense. So I'm going to say it again. Release what's holding them back, realign and rebalance your energy in order for you to redesign a life that you actually enjoy living, a life of joy, a life of passion. And you need to do that in a lot of different ways. And that's spoken to all of this community, whether you are a healer, whether you're not a healer, whether you're just waking up, or whether you're like, I don't even know what they're talking about, but I found myself here. So we help people do the inner work. I also help people look at what their body's doing. So how's their mind functioning? How are their neurotransmitters? How are their moods? How's their sleep? So bridging the gap between energy medicine, Western medicine, what's working in that modality, and what other functional medicine or supplements or nutrition, and how do we bring that all together and bridge the gap between the three? Because I really believe there's not one area that you can work on without doing the rest. So that's kind of what I do. And then I'll let Paige kind of introduce what we're going to talk about specifically tonight.
Well, it's interesting because the theme that was downloaded for this first was intention. And I immediately knew I wanted you to be my first person because we talk about intention a lot. And it wasn't last year, in 2022, I believe it was, we collaborated and we did an online quantum retreat, which was for people to come in where they could kind of just, whether they were involved or on the Zooms or not, they were going to be receiving the healing, because we both understand that we're moms, we work, we have lives, there's all these things to do, yet we still want to be healing and we still want to be taking these steps forward. So we wanted to create a retreat that was 3D and 5D. And we realized that that's really a click between the two of us, is that we tend to bridge the gap, the two of us together. I tend to be much more floaty, much more 5D, much more working with the galactic. I'm all floaty up here, and Brittany's all nice and grounded. And so when we communicate really well and we do really bridge that gap for each other, and I think that that's the intention right now. We're starting off this new program, and I'm trying to call in and help and support as many people as we can. But it's bridging the gap from the 3D to the 5D. And that's really one reason why I think we're being called right now. My guides are talking to me right now. I can already hear they're stepping in. But yes, like there's this intention that's being set to call in everyone, because we're all supposed to be anchoring in more light in this world for ourselves and for humanity. And so we have to do that not just in the clouds, but also in our physical bodies. And so we have to find a way to be the bridge. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that, Brittany?
Yeah, it's interesting because I have many thoughts on that. So I think we all can speak to or understand the fact that some of us are visionaries. I know Paige is a visionary, and so do I. And I have a lot of visions. I have a lot of ideas. But the issue is I wasn't creating them in my own life. So I have this vision of this healing business, and I did create it. I did get the action into place to create it, and now I have to keep working on it. So I think some people think, you're going to have this vision. I want to manifest this new life, and manifestation to be a big topic right now, right? So a lot of people, I want to manifest this, and I'm like, how does that even work? So thinking of Paige, and I can a little bit be up in the clouds, but I am more in the 3D. But that's because that's how I understand it. And one of my other best friends is really grounded in the 3D, and she's always like, okay, but we live here, Brittany. So always I'm thinking, how am I bridging this gap? Because on one hand, I know I can create what I want. I know I'm a co-creator of my life, but I'm also living in the 3D where I'm still working at the hospital. I'm still a mom. I'm still going through the motions of life, but I see myself as this healer with this healing business, and I can't figure out how to get there. So I really start thinking, and it was funny that I didn't actually realize I was talking about intention until a couple of days ago. And I had been laying on the couch and I was like, interesting, these things are coming up. So I had already started taking notes. And first, I think many of you may know that 2024 is an 8 year, which is all about abundance. And abundance can mean abundance of money, of love, so finances, manifestation, peace, calm. So I was thinking, what do I want to manifest? And abundance in all these areas. And really bringing that down into the 3D is, I think, the challenge for me most of all, but I think for many. So as I'm up there in the 5D and I'm thinking, I want this, I want this, I want this, but how am I going to get it? So a lot of things that I do in my business and what I work on personally still every single day, and I think that's important to start there, is that healing and growing and living is an everyday job.
Yes.
So not one time that you get to say, I want to manifest this or that, and that it just shows up. And I think sometimes some people get that idea that maybe the more I think of it, the more it's going to come, which I think is true in a way. But we also have to figure out how to bring those thoughts and beliefs into the 3D, right? We have to see them in our minds, but we also have to be grounded enough to take the intentional action steps to get to that goal. So when I wrote the other day, I was like, I work on balance. I want to balance energy. I want to balance. I talk a lot about the left brain versus the right brain, which in my mind, all reality, the left brain is more 3D, right? And the right brain is more 5D. So what I need to do is create a bridge between my left and right brain, and that makes sense. So creating new neural pathways is a way to say that. And we do that by nervous system regulation. We do that by changing our daily patterns, changing our daily thoughts. So when you think about it all, we're bringing a 5D awareness into the 3D. And that's where I think you and I do that pretty cohesively, and we teach it well to others, because you can't be all one or all the other, right? It'd be easier that way, but we have a 5D mentality.
It would be so much easier if I could just sit at home all day with no one talking to me, and just be completely in my sacred space and move through life. It would be very easy, but like they say, you think you're awakened, go see your family for a holiday, or it's like these are the things that we're here to discover. We can't just isolate ourselves into these little corners where it feels safe and protective and shut out the rest of the world. We're here to experience this life, these emotions, each other, and we whatever you're doing, whether you're a janitor, or whether you're a teacher, or whether you're a doctor or a nurse or a banker or it doesn't matter. When you're out in the world going grocery shopping, when you are getting gas, when you're at a restaurant, all these different collective energies are coming in here, and that's what we're here for. So if you are okay on your own in this perfect little bubble, but you fall apart in the world, then we need to learn how to ground our energy more, so you can anchor in your own light stronger and more steadfast, and not be swayed. I know that as an empath, we have especially new it's hard to motivate and manage all of these different energy flows that are with us. But that's part of the beauty. That's part of learning who we are. And one of the reasons my guides were telling me, I was kind of frustrated the other day, and I was kind of talking to my guide, and it's like, I'm really tired. I'm driving, 30 minutes to drop my kids off at school and then 30 minutes here. And I was kind of showing them the map, and I'm like, I'm just tired. Why can't everything be closer? And they explained to me, they showed me my light moving all these different places. And they were like, thank you. And I was like, so by me driving around and doing all this stuff, I'm helping? And they were like, yes, that is you anchoring in the light in all of these different communities that need the light. And you're being called to all these different places in all these neighboring towns. So that way your energy is creating a grid. And I was like, oh. And they showed me this beautiful grid. And I was like, oh, how interesting. And in my mind, I was getting so frustrated and tired. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm spending, 3 hours in a car going 20 minutes here and 20 minutes there. And then they showed me the grid, and they were like, thank you. All of these spaces need you. And that never crossed my mind that, if you're walking to work 20 minutes, well, you're being called to walk to work 20 minutes back and forth, because the whole time you're doing it, you're anchoring in the light. You're being of service. You're a light worker. Driving around to this town and that town and back to this town and all the way around is creating a grid that's helping all the people in this community. And so we don't even realize that we are of service and that we are being light workers when we're just living our lives. Sometimes we think like, oh, I have to be, in a lotus position and quiet and channeling and, with the gong and the sound baths. We can just be going to the grocery store and then going to pick up, tape at Dollar General and, just running around. And that's just as good, because our guides are with us every single minute and they're working with us. And so our intentions are really with every breath. Every breath, we're anchoring in this light that we are. And that's another thing that my guides keep saying. And so I'm going to keep repeating it because it's important. I've been saying it for a long time. Anchor in the light. That's what they keep telling me. Anchor in the light. And that's what we do. We anchor in the light everywhere we go.
Like, that's a really interesting perspective, right? And I talk a lot about perspective because you just brought the light back in, right? So you just brought that presence and that balance right back into the body, even though you were driving around and running errands or doing errands or getting your kids places. So I think it's really important to talk about just presence and balance in general. So when I thought of intention, I think you could look at that in a lot of different ways. And you could say, I had this intention for this program, or we start Reiki sessions with an intention, or a healing session with an intention. And I think it's really important to have those intentions. And that's how we're beginning to create and co-create and manifest, right? But I think it's also important, as you said, we need to bring it back down to, we are living in the 3D. So as we can't be in those 5D spaces at all times with the gong and, during a Reiki session, it's so great. And people could come to us as healers or coaches, and we can help kind of get them rebalanced, get them back on the right track. But the real work is getting you back out there on your own to create and acting with intention in every moment. So I think that, you said a couple things that caught my eye, and you started earlier saying, we're holding ourselves back, and we did the same when we thought of being these healers. And I still was just talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, I have in my mind that I need to be this present, balanced person at all times, and I'm not going to succeed in a healing business until I am. And I was like, but that's not me. It's not me, it's not authentic, and it's not who I am. And I don't think I'm going to attract the right clients because I'm waiting until I turn into somebody else.
Right,
When
exactly.
in all actuality, those aren't the people that are going to come to me, because I help the people who are, guess what? We are in the 3D. We live here. but we need to learn to bring the balance between the left and right brain, or some call it the 3D and 5D. That's just the way I understand it. That may not be proper, but it's the way I understand it. So the ego or the left brain really keeps us in that trap, because my ego is primed to keep me safe, right? You don't get rid of it. Some people, I don't know, it falls away and maybe it never comes back. But if some people don't know, that's that inner voice, it's the inner critic, and it's there to keep you safe. But in order to remain present, create these new neural pathways between the left and right brain so that we can really live in this present 5D balance space, balance of 3D and 5D, we have to figure out how to become the observer, right? The 5D, the right brain, is the observer. So some might say, what are you even talking about with that? Well, when you say, when I talk to myself, or sometimes you might think you have multiple personalities because you've got all these voices talking back and forth between your head. Well, one's the 3D ego and one is the 5D or the higher self, or that connected to the universe. So the ego is going to say things to you like that, like you can't be a healer because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know enough. You don't do enough. No one's going to come to you because no one's going to believe in you.
The big one for me is, whenever I have a feel, I get angry, I curse, like for me, being the people pleaser is a trauma response. Raised as a child, everything's perfect, so that was kind of the light that I was able to turn on really easy to create that screen of everything being good. And my authentic self is much more raw. So when you get to know the real me, like you'll realize that I am much more edgy than the persona that I might put out. But that's the authenticity that comes in. And we all have masks, we all have these different ideas what we'd have. And the point is learning how to take off the masks and being just who you are and being authentic. I'm really not in the mood to be silly and nice today. Yeah. I'm not feeling good. And that's okay. I don't, and I tell that to my daughter all the time. She's a teenager at this point, and I say, thank you for being imperfect around me. Thank you for loving me enough that you can be mad at me. I appreciate that. Yeah. Because that's important. I said, you certainly see it from me too, right? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's because I love you, and I'll allow. That's the rawness of life. And I think if we can all start getting to that point, we're going to be more authentic with each other. But man, when you said, as a healer, we think that we have to be perfect before we can heal others, that is a huge, huge trip, that I think we all go through. And perfection is completely overrated. Perfection is not, it's in a lot of ways, it's a block, because you can hide behind this mask of perfection. Mm-hmm. And being able to know that you're right, the people that are going to find me are going to meet me right where I am, because this is who I'm here to help. And they'll find you, versus if you're trying to be someone you're not.
Exactly.
How are they going to find you?
Yeah. And that's so huge right now. People saying, I'm authentic, I have integrity. And, maybe it's okay that you're not the same exact person all the time, because you're right. You have different moods and you have to learn to move through those. And I think the worst thing we were taught to do is just to shut it down and keep moving, right? Because that really is what's keeping us stuck. So I think that's what just important work that I do. And when I say work that I do, it's work I do on myself. And this is an everyday thing. And when I want to keep bringing it back to intention, and what I felt called to talk about today was creating intentional action. So have some people have a New Year's resolution. I find those don't work for me because they just don't. So it's something that if I have that vision or that goal I want to manifest, you know, I'm here, but I want to be here. But what's the action step I intentionally need to take every single day in order to get there? And I think, you know, creating a healing business has not been easy. And you know what you want to do, but duty calls, life calls, and we're not there yet. So it's really easy to give up, and you could incorporate that or apply that to any goal, whether it's career, finance, relationships. So to me, to get to that goal and to bring this manifestation, it's the little shifts, the little choices. And we talk a lot about choice and intentional choice, intentional action. It's something you do every day. So when you're able to bring everything back into the present moment, when you're able to keep that balance, is when you're able to listen to your intuition, right? And when you balance that left and right brain, nobody can function fully on intuition, because sometimes we're triggered, sometimes we're in a mood, and sometimes we don't hear it. And the ego is here to keep us safe. So how do we utilize those things together? So if we're utilizing, we do need to weigh pros and cons. And let's say the big ones for me have been relationship, career, and, you know, not looking at my body, but how my body feels is what's, you know, if you need to get to a goal, you have to start looking at the now. What's working now, and what's working in favor of me getting to that goal, and what isn't. And if I'm looking at how do I create this healing business and get to stay home more as a mom, and I want to feel better, you know, so I'm looking at career. How is career working for me now? When I was full-time at the hospital, I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm too tired to create anything. I can't hear my intuition because I'm so tired. I'm so off balance. I'm in survival mode. That's all I could do is follow the next best step, because I can't even think enough to listen to my body to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Oh, yeah.
you have to start really looking what's working for me. Is career something I can change right now? And if it's not, I need to figure out how to change my perception of it. So I need to start saying, you know what, I'm grateful for that hospital job because I have enough money to start looking into business ideas. I have a house, I have this. So what is that bringing to you that's going to get you towards your goal? If it's to the point, you know what, I can't do it anymore, or I can't do this relationship anymore, then it's time to intentionally start looking at things. What do I need to let go of so that I can move toward the goal? Or what do I need to figure out how to really just stick with and make it work?
So do you have any tips? So resolutions don't work for me either. But in terms of the intentionality, for me, I tend to try to make a theme for the year because I can use that almost as an affirmation. And I try to look at things that align with my values, which I think you also said. Like
Mhm.
for my four, like I call it my pillars: faith, family, foundation, and flow. Like if it has to align with those things. And if it doesn't, then it's not something I want to work in. But what are some actual steps that we can take in intentionality? So if we have a plan, like I know this isn't working for me because I'm exhausted. So
Mhm.
what would be some tips that you would suggest in terms of creating that intentional bridge?
Yeah. So to me, it all comes back to creating balance. So do I have balance in my mind? Is it that I need to start changing my thoughts, becoming more aware of my thoughts? And maybe that takes going to a coach or going to a Reiki practitioner, or, you know, reaching out to somebody, or maybe it's you picking up meditation, and maybe that doesn't work for you. So I think too, you talked about healers having one modality that is better than another, or I do multiple modalities, and I think they're all the same to me. They all are weighted the same, but some might work better in that day. So maybe I don't have time to do a full Reiki session on myself, which is like, you know, 60 to 90 minutes, but I can work myself through a quick breathwork session, or I can throw on my Healy device and put that on and continue about my day because I don't have time to slow down that day. So I think of that in mind, and what do I need to start changing my thoughts, right? So if we are manifesting, we're not going to stay positive all the time. I think that's one thing too, that people are like, I'll just be positive all the time. Well, I think we all know that doesn't work, but it's more, you know what? What's that emotion that's coming up? Where's that negative emotion coming from? Where's that anger coming from? That sadness? What's it trying to tell me in this moment? Can I deal with that right now? Maybe I can. If I can't, I need to move on. So it's more bringing in a balance, or bringing in that present state of mind. What am I doing right now? Where's my mind? Am I going through the motions, or am I actually here creating this food? Maybe it's a decision of, you know what, I don't have time to rework my entire life today, but I'm going to add more vegetables this week. Or I'm going to cut out one food that I know is not doing me any good. You know, so maybe it's so small, but that's the only shift that you have the energy to even do. And maybe I can't do anything that day because I'm too exhausted, and we need to give ourselves grace to have days like that. So guess what? I took a day off. I need to not beat myself up. I can still move forward, right? So creating balance of mind, and it's starting to look at what's really working for me. Is this food I'm eating working for me? What are my moods? Are there supplements I need to add in? So maybe it gets really challenging, right? For you to be like, I'm going to change my whole life in one day. So maybe it's just going to someone like one of us and saying, here's what I'm struggling with. Where do I start? So to me, it's, and that's what I help people do is and I think we all can say that the power and all of this is in our daily routine. So if we're waking up and we're going straight for, let's say coffee is just really not working for us anymore, it's making us feel terrible. Maybe it's that we need to have a plan to try something different that day. Or should I cut back on caffeine? If that's not for you, then maybe it's what can I add to my day? So to me, it's all what are the intentional actions to get toward that goal? And it's not going to be perfect. So this is such a process that it's just not going to be perfect. So maybe, so that's what I'm trying to say. So
law of attention has always, I used to do law of attention a lot. And then I went through this big spiral of guilt, like something's wrong with me. I haven't done, I must not be good enough. If I've been thinking the affirmations and doing this, like why hasn't this switched into place? Why haven't I aligned with this? And I think that it's, you know, frequency and vibration. We use these terms a lot, but we don't always realize what they are. And the thing, the truth about law of attraction is that it's that you open your heart enough to align with the energy of what it is you want to manifest. And that's when it happens quickly. And it's not your fault if you're not there yet. You know, we as humans, as part of the human collective, we do this all the time. I'm naughty. I'm bad. I haven't done this. You know, I know I'm not supposed to drink caffeine, but I had a cup of coffee today.
You're like,
bad.
Then you give up.
Right. And it's instead, it's loving ourselves enough to give ourselves the freedom to make different choices and to try again. Like you said, try again a different day, do something else. But it's really that self-love that kind of keeps us going, because if we keep doing this all the time, we're just going to want to give up. And I know we've been there, you know, for intention is really about finding something that really aligns with something that's going to make your heart sing, that you're going to keep feeling motivated to do it for yourself because it's going to feel good in the end, not this.
Exactly. And I think too, that is slowing down a little bit. So I keep saying, you know, I've had all these really great things come up in life, and sometimes there are setbacks, right? So I actually left my hospital job to work a slower, you know, part-time job where I wouldn't be so tired so I could create this healing business. And I like to tell people it wasn't perfect. It did not go as planned. But what I was able to do was slow down enough in my mind to see that wasn't actually the path. So even though I thought for sure I was exactly on the path that I created in my head to manifest what I wanted, it didn't work out that way, right? Because there are other people who are parts of that. And guess what? That part didn't work. And I was super discouraged, right? But we can slow down enough to say, I'm being redirected somewhere else. So you really have no idea what else is going to come up. You just have to keep taking those small intentional actions each day because you know what? Something better came up. And I went back to working 2 days a week at the hospital and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted again. And I made it through the last 2 months and I went step by step, right? And step by step, meaning what do I need to do to get through the day? Well, I wasn't even realizing some of the things that I was missing, right? So now I've had a week of relaxation, which I know not everybody gets, but I was able
Yeah.
to slow down enough to see, to remain in balance, to know, okay, I need to relook at that. Like mine was as simple, I say simple, but I had to get different insurance plan when I left the hospital, which just started in the last few days, which has been really exhausting. And something that keeps coming up for me is you can't, so people say trust and surrender, right? Which is part of the manifestation. And we're not always in control, right? We have to trust and surrender and trust that God or the universe is bringing what we need. But we do also need that left brain attention to detail every now and then.
Yeah.
So I did overlook a lot of details. And I thought, you know what? I'm too tired to learn about this insurance plan. I don't want to know. I don't want to. I don't like it. So I found someone to put my full faith in. Well, it might not have been the right thing to do because I spent 2 hours on the phone with an insurance company the other day. I learned more than I needed to know in 2 hours. And now I know exactly what to call the guy and say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. So a little bit of proper planning along with a trust and surrender, which is also that balance. And now I know what I need to do. But I was too tired before to actually figure it out. So once you can bring your brain back to balance, you can actually see, oh, that actually came up as a lesson for me because that's what I need to be doing. I have to have a little bit of proper planning in order to be able to take those action steps in order to get to my goal. And some of us, I think healers and empaths, we go with the energy, we go with the flow, and we want it to just work out. Well, I think sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So really bringing it back to balancing my body. And that's going to look so different for everybody. So it's hard to say what's the step-by-step plan. But I think for me, it was learning Reiki, learning to slow down, learning where are these emotional blockages in my body? Where are the physical blockages? And I'm still doing the same thing every day now. So I do have a healing business. I do have all these modalities. And there are times I still need to call Paige and say, I'm overwhelmed and I need help. So sometimes it's calling a friend, sometimes it's calling an expert, sometimes it's calling a friend and saying, I need to do research on a certain topic and I'm too tired to do it. Can you help?
Yep.
So who
And
can you call?
I just want to reiterate too, like, I think a lot of times people think that if you're a healer, then suddenly you stop getting healings because you're perfect. And I
Yeah.
think that that's another thing in terms of when we create intention for ourselves and when we're trying to manifest, we're trying to birth something else into this world. Like, I need assistance, right? It's like as a psychic and a medium, I get messages for other people all the time, but they're not coming in the same way for me. It's like, or for my family members, it's almost like there's this little bubble because my guides are trying to protect me. I don't need to know everything about my life and my children's life, right? And my husband's life. Like that's our little bubble. But I sometimes do. I need a healing. And I go and I receive. And being able to receive a healing opens you up and it gives you that calm centeredness that you need. And like you said, the test is out in the world. But even just for a minute, if you can slow down with the guide, with someone else, setting an intention with you to open up space, it just gives you this breath of a moment that you can use. So those of us that are in 2024 and we have these resolutions and these intentions and these themes and these motivations, and we're trying to kind of ride this wave, this vibration of new, of hope, of creativity. Sometimes that means stillness. That means receiving healing from someone else. I will
Mhm.
say, though, that it is important in this age where everyone is quote unquote a healer to make sure that you really vet and feel aligned with the person that's giving you the healing. I've run into this over the last few months where someone that was kind of, giving healings was out of alignment and it was affecting other people. You know what I mean? So use your discernment. If you feel a yes when you meet someone and you resonate with who they are, then that's a next step for you. So that's good. Then you say, yes, that's who I want to work with. So you just keep that in mind too. Find someone that you feel really comfortable with, that you can kind of collaborate. Barter system's great. Brittany and I often exchange with each other. Like, I need a healing, she needs a healing, and we can kind of, create balance for each other in that way. And it's a safe and protected circle. If you don't have a modality that you can barter in, then it is worthwhile to find someone that you can go to for a healing. And, the beautiful thing about this world now is we have Zoom, so we can do distant healings. Reiki's always been distant. You have that access. I remember once time I got a Reiki session over the phone with someone.
Mhm.
I think it was like in 2006, really early. We just set up a time, and it was a life-changing thing for me that I
Yeah.
could receive a distant healing from someone that was at somewhere far away, and she could send me healing, and I felt better. I'll
Mhm.
tell the story because it was kind of amazing. I'd had a miscarriage, and I was not telling anyone about what happened, and I was really sad because I'd lost the baby a little bit before I told anyone I was pregnant. And so I didn't feel like I could tell them that I was pregnant because I'd lost the baby. And my jaw literally seized
Uh,
shut. So that throat chakra connection. I was in so much grief that my jaw seized because I wasn't telling my truth. I wasn't able to communicate the pain that I was in. And I found someone, and I was going to doctors. They were going to smash open my jaw with a hammer and break it and reset it. I mean, I had an appointment booked to do that, but I knew it was grief. I was like, I know this is my grief, and I know it's because I'm not talking about it. And I found someone to send me Reiki, and within a 45-minute session, my jaw could move, and I was able to start eating again. and
mm,
and and that's that kind of shift, that kind of silence, that stillness that gives you is, I just needed to acknowledge the pain. I needed to
yeah.
acknowledge the grief. And I was acknowledging it. I knew what it was, and I was trying to release my pain, and I was trying to meditate and work with my guides, but I couldn't move that grief out on my own. And there was this beautiful experience of setting the intention to work with someone else, and I was able, it's
Yeah.
amazing. 45 minutes. They were going to break my jaw, crack it open with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting point that you made that we didn't really talk about that much yet. And that is like the chakra and energy system. So a healer, or many people know that when your body and energy wheels are out of alignment, then that's when physical symptoms show up in the body. And Paige, I call her the chakra guru for me, and she knows way more about them than I do. But when I do a Reiki session, I can feel, sometimes I see things, but I can always feel what's out of alignment. So when someone or a client comes to me and they say, I'm having these issues, I take that into consideration, and then I compare that and add to what I feel in the body. And then sometimes I know this is the chakra you need to work on. So interestingly enough, you said your jaw was related to the throat and you not communicating your pain. So it wasn't enough for you to get there on your own. You needed some other person to really just help to get you through that place, and so healers, like you said, healers need other healers. I guess it's just so interesting. So when you're really looking at that, you might not even think that this body system has to do with this. So maybe if I'm not looking at my like childhood things come up a lot for me, or just childhood traumas a lot, or inner child work when I'm doing sessions on people. And I often see this little child coming up for love or coming up to get a hug or something. And I can say, you know, here's something you could try at home. Like talk to that inner child, that part of you. There's still multiple versions of you going through all of these experiences in life, which is mind-boggling, right? In our 3D brains, they just don't understand it. So we are literally healing traumas from past generations, our current generations, and we're holding those all in our bodies. So whether that makes sense to you or not, it doesn't really matter. But when you're going to someone who's a healer that can point out that to you, and they're like, have you been through this? And you're like, I have, oh my gosh. Or maybe like Paige knows that certain red foods go along with the root chakra. So, hey, try adding in this. So it's really fun to start thinking, what can I see differently? What's a perception shift that I can take? You know what? Oh, the symptom came up, to teach me something, to show me something, that I have a lesson I still haven't learned. When I'm in that balanced state, I can see.
You mentioned that twice, and I just want to pause. I love how you're reminding us that every challenge is a gift. It's a lesson. And
Right.
and that's one of those things as we're starting to shift. Like maybe if people are watching this and they don't really know some of the words that we're using, because we kind of have our own language, you know, after studying this for so many years, right? But the point is that all of the trauma, all of the drama, all of the things that happen in our life, there's a gift in that somewhere. And taking the pause to find it. And sometimes the gift isn't right now. The gift will be in years from now. But there
Right.
is a gift. Yeah.
And it's also guess what? That pattern is not getting you toward your goal. So that pattern I have or had, of putting all trust in someone else, of, you know what, I'm going to choose you to trust fully with my finances and my insurance, and I'm not going to learn about it and I'm not looking into it. Well, guess what? That's probably not run a business. It's not going to help me live a successful life. So I was able to today, actually last night even, slow down and think, oh, I need to learn. Guess what? About it. It was just an ego trap of the mind telling me, you're not going to ever figure that out. You don't understand finances. You'll just do what this person says. Why? Why can't I learn it? I'm smart enough to know. Now I've looked at that pattern, and I think that's my biggest point in everything is until I was able to slow down enough to really look at it, I couldn't see it. And once you have that perception shift, oh, I was able to think, okay, I can't move forward with that. That's one of the things that I was shown then that was a block keeping me from what I wanted to manifest. So now I know by slowing down enough, I know the action steps I need to take with intention to get one more step toward my goal. And you're right, maybe that doesn't get me to my goal today or tomorrow, but I'm one step closer.
Yeah, being the observer, you've mentioned that in this call already, like being able to observe your life and your triggers in
Mhm.
different ways is really a very big step in moving from the emotionality of just, you know, constantly being on that same wheel where the same things keep happening versus pausing. And sometimes you can't until afterwards, but you pause and you go, oh, isn't it interesting that I reacted that way? And I know that the first time I felt that was this. So somehow these, you know, what's the lesson in that? How are these two different moments connected? You know I felt some, you know, and then you can start just kind of observing it. Like, it's an interesting point of view that I have that point of view. Like, interesting situation that this has happened to me before. You know, how wonderful that I get to, you know, figure this out. There's a beauty in the unfolding that comes from that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and to me,
yeah,
that's the awakening. To me, that's the awakening to that higher level of consciousness, which is how we're getting to the 5D. So really, it's all an awareness, right? So once I've seen now, I know I have that pattern now, I've identified it. And now I'm going to notice it quicker the next time. It's not going to be perfect. And there's going to be days where I'm like, not today. But you know
Yep.
what? I see it. It's the same when you get triggered with an emotion and now you're like, before you reacted, you didn't even know. It took you a couple days to figure it out. The next time around, when you're still in that higher level of awareness, you're like, okay, that triggered me before. This is what it was. I'm going to try it this way this time. So by doing that, creating this awareness, creating alternate responses to that trigger, you're creating new neural pathways, more connections to the left and right brain. So really you're raising your consciousness and awareness the whole time.
Yeah. And I know that Neuro Linguistic Programming is similar. I studied that for a while. I think when I was in New York, I took a seminar. This first one I did, it was called Acting Success Now. And it was a lot about creating these new neural pathways. And it was in the workshop, it started off with, they told us to watch this video of someone passing a ball back and forth in the room. And they said, now count how many times the ball goes back and forth. And I was like, yeah. And I counted, let's say it was 26. And I was like, 26. Yeah, that's what it is. And they were like, okay, you got it? And we were like, yeah. And they were like, okay, just to make sure you got it right, watch it again. So we watched it again. And of course, I got the same number. And I was like, yes, I'm right. And there were a couple giggles in the background, but I wasn't paying attention to it. I was like, yeah, I so got that right. And then they said, okay, now watch it again, but don't watch the ball. Just kind of look at the whole room. And I'm not kidding that there was a guy dressed up in a gorilla suit that came out in the middle and did a dance. And I was so focused on the ball going back and forth, counting how many times the ball had moved, that I did not see until the third time watching it, being told to not watch the ball anymore, that I saw a guy in a gorilla suit do a dance in the middle.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's kind of like that, so when I start to feel really chaotic and really, just I go,
Yeah.
where's the gorilla in the room? That's what I tell myself, because I'm focusing on a ball. What ball am I focusing on that's making me go and get all upset? And I look around, I'm like, okay, there's a gorilla. There's something here. There's something else here. And that's when we're setting intentions and we start thinking, sometimes we can get so focused on the small goal, the ball, that we miss the big goal. And so one of the things that my guides told me this year was to really focus on the miracle aspect of motivation. Like, I've realized that I've consistently held my threshold very low and reasonable with that wonderful ego to keep me safe. Well, I only need this much because this will keep me safe and protected, and I'll have everything I need and the four walls and da 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 da. And that's that. Anything else will be icing on the cake. So I focus, very good, very proper, just kind of lining up with just what I need. And they've been kind of telling me, like, make it bigger, right? Challenge yourself to have a bigger, broader vision and goal, because we are limiting spirit.
Yeah.
And I'm only focusing on that little ball. All I need is this little bit and I'm good. Versus better than I can imagine. Opening
Exactly.
up the screen and allowing these bigger things to come in. So I think that that's important too, in terms of intention, is don't make your intention, 10, make it 1,000,000,
Yeah.
because we, like you said, the ego is there to keep us safe, to keep us protected. And so we're always just going to ask for just what we need. But maybe spirit and the universe and the divine has so much more in plan for us.
That's right. And by
Yeah.
taking the divinely intentional action steps, you're going to get there one step at a time.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a couple times, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more about it, your Healy device. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. You told me about it before, and I like it. It's neat.
Yeah, so Healy is actually a frequency delivery device, and you can actually just wear it on your shirt. So it is actually, there are a few devices like it, but it's actually a frequency device that has a quantum sensor in it. So I like it because it's kind of a fix it and forget it, I guess, if you will, and where you give Healy an intention, it actually has a quantum sensor then that reads your body's energy, and then it delivers the exact frequencies needed by your specific body in order to get you to that intention. And it could be, you know, it has meridians, it has chakras, it has nutritional additives like vitamins, minerals, amino acids. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands of frequencies. So it's a device that's pretty cool when we talk about vibration and healing. And it is a modality that I think has been working for me really well lately. And it is something I like to put on and you can go about the day. So this particular one has the device, you can just actually wear it right on your shirt and it delivers frequencies to you while you're going about your day. So I've been running it at night to help fall asleep. It has a sleep setting, so it can give you balanced sleep, and it's all by reading your body and delivering frequency healings or frequencies to your body in order to get you to the intention that you're looking for. So it really fits perfectly with what we do and what I do and what we do in our businesses, but it's also something that can be used at home. So you can go to a provider, you can get these frequencies delivered, or you can use Healy at home. And Healy is something you can use during the day. You can use it while you watch TV. You can use it while you do the dishes. And that is something that sometimes I don't even feel like putting my hands on my body to do Reiki because I'm just too tired or I don't have the time to slow down that day. So this is just another way, a successful way to deliver frequencies for an intention. Similar, I think of it as it's similar in my mind to Reiki. Though Reiki is just energy flowing through a practitioner, and this is frequencies actually delivered by a physical device. So they even say this is a bridge between science and spirituality because it's actually a physical device, which some people don't believe in something they can't see, which is maybe they would trust a Healy device giving them frequencies that way. So to me, it's all. I don't believe one modality is better than another, but I think sometimes you're in the mood for one, sometimes you're in the mood for another, and it just all depends what works best for you in that moment.
Yeah. And the other thing you brought up that I want you to talk a little bit about is breath work, because I find breath work to be one of the most important things. As an actor and a performer, I studied, voice and a lot of different, voice and diction modalities and methods. And I was able to do a session with you. And for me, breath work is just the foundation of healing in so many ways because we breathe all the time. And it's amazing, but changing our breath in a moment of trigger, anxiety, stress, grounding your energy and breathing differently will really shift you in beautiful ways. And so, so just give a little bit of your thoughts on breath as well, because I think that that's such an important thing to add into our year is this intention to focus on our breath because it shifts the energy and it gives us the space that we need to heal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of healers and in meditative work in yoga, they always say, bring it back to the breath. The breath is all we have. And sometimes that's hard to do, first of all. And sometimes people are like, oh, it's, bring it back to the breath. It's something people say, but it's actually the one thing you can do in any moment. So I had that when I'm a nurse practitioner in the critical care setting and a patient is having a critical issue right in front of me. And the one thing I can do while I'm working the room is take deep breaths because I'm not helping anybody if I'm not calm, right? So that's one way I can give back to that and try to control that environment was bringing it back to the breath. So that's one reason I can say, I don't always have a Healy device, I can sit there and give myself Reiki, but you better believe I'm going to be taking deep breaths at the same time. And that can be in any critical situation that you're in, or your kid's sick, or you're at work and you're triggered. You can be thinking, what can I do? So and it's also getting you out of that triggered event. If you're noticing like, oh God, I'm breathing, 30 times a minute, that's one thing you can think, okay, slow down, take a deep breath. It could even be, I'm going to breathe down low to my abdomen and breathe out. That could be a type of breath work. So there are a lot of different types of breath work. I learned through story breath work, which takes a couple different methods of breath work, and it also pairs it with some meditation. So I found that to be really helpful. But breath work is proven scientifically to change the body composition. Not only does it have physical benefits like increasing lung capacity, like swimmers, sports people can really benefit from all of that, but it can also increase clarity, increase focus, decrease pain, decrease stress. So it's scientifically proven to have these physical and emotional benefits, and it's quick. So it will change your body, the body composition is how I'm explaining it, but it will change your body right then and there. So we do 5-minute breathwork sessions. It could be 20-minute breathwork sessions paired with some meditation. But also, I think it's so important that it's getting you out of that triggered event. So breathwork session with a practitioner, you may bring, I want to get rid of pain. I may want to work through a traumatic event that I went through as a childhood or in childhood. And we're going to work on getting that. It's similar to me as other modalities, and it's creating or bringing that pain or trauma to the surface and breathing it out and getting it out of the body, realigning the energy flow in the body through the breath.
Well, it's interesting too, because a lot of people talk about yoga, and there's 8 limbs of yoga, and only one has to do with the physical body. Most of it has to do with breath and meditation, working with the spirit. And so breath is so foundational because we have to do it. Every breath is a blessing. And if we aren't breathing, then we're dying. We literally have to breathe. And it's not just the out, it's the in. There's ebb, flow, and it's that in and out, ebb and flow, give and receive. A lot of healers, we give. But you have to receive, right? There has to be that intake of breath as well as that exhalation. And we need to add that into our daily practices on so many levels. And it's interesting because when we first started talking, one of the first things that we kind of mentioned was, different healers and different modalities, and we're not all going to have the same experiences, and we're not all going to have the same psychic gifts as well. And a lot of times we think we need to have all the clairs. There's at least 12 different psychic gifts. There's clairaudience and clairsentience and clairvoyance, and there's light language and xenology, and there's mediumship, and we have all of these different gifts, and we are all going to experience them on different waves in different times, and being able to kind of open up to be able to receive them in different ways. They're all from the same source, though. So a lot of times people think, oh, well, I'm not a medium, so then I'm not as good, or I'm not as open, or I'm not as awake as someone else. And yet breathing and like the Akashik Records and tarot and mediumship and breath work and yoga and all these different limbs, they all come from that same divine source. So when you're like, I notice when I'm tapping into the Akashic Records, or when I'm doing a healing, or when I'm doing a tarot reading, or all these different modalities that we use, right? They're slightly different spaces, but in that same field. and they're all connected. So we're all just finding our own ways of getting into this sacred space so that way we can find the stillness, like you said, those moments of stillness that we can listen and adjust and ground. And then we know what our next step is. Because
Yes.
that's the thing that's hard is, well, what's my next step? You know, I've got all these ideas, I've got all these downloads, I've got all these feelings, and I just don't know what to do. Like, the next best step. And, you know, dream big, dream really big. But like what Brittany was saying is find a small next step. You know, the picture of the ladder, when the rungs are closer together, you can get to the top. But if you have the rung way up here and you can't reach it, you're never going to climb the ladder. So small intentional steps is kind of what I'm getting from this conversation that I'm finding inspiring is that, you know, dream big, have a big dream, but also remember just to love yourself on those small little steps as you go.
Yeah, because when we've slowed down enough to know, we're not going to hear our intuition or hear what that next divine step is or intentional step if we can't slow down enough to hear it. So I think to me, the magic is in that slowing down, and it won't be perfect. It's not going to always be easy, but you will be directed if you can slow down enough to listen. But also you do have to make a plan. So I think it's a balance of a well thought out plan,
Mm-hmm.
next divinely guided intentional action.
Beautiful. Well, I think that gets me started for the year. That's really good. If anybody wants to reach out to you, how do they find you?
Yeah, I have a website, energeticrestoration.com, or I'm also on Instagram at energetic_restoration.
Wonderful. And I am Paige Lussier Johnson. My website is paigelussierjohnson.com. You can find me on Instagram at Love and Light, LUVNL888, which is my hashtag for just about all the social medias, including YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And that being said, I'm excited for this new year. I'm excited to work with wonderful, beautiful souls like Brittany. I'm excited to meet new healers and artists and entrepreneurs and educators and all these wonderful souls in this universe as we create a beautiful new vision of this earth and of our life. And we come together in joy and peace and harmony. So for those of you that are here, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for helping to set the intention for 2024 with Brittany and I today. Please feel free to reach out to me. We are going to be doing these themes and these interviews every month. Next month will be self-care with my friend Mandy from Belize. And we are just going to be having a year-long unfolding together. And so I wish you all the very best in your life and in your path. Many blessings, love and light. Bye-bye now.